How's it going, my truant people? DrSlaking, the Slacking Doctor, back on Pokemon Showdown for week 4 of Owl. This week we're going up against the Forecast, and in particular we're going up against Probopassed, aka Scout. This is the first time I'm pretty sure I've ever battled Scout, so this is really looking forward to it. I've known Scout for a while, and she's really cool, and I get on with her really well, so I'm excited for this game. Now, if you guys have been keeping up with the channel lately, you've seen me having to rush through videos a little bit because of my problems with my internet. So unfortunately, we don't have a team builder in this, but I am going to run over the team that I brought here and any changes to what Scout brought compared to what I was expecting. This week, I actually went first. This is the only week where out of me and my teammates, I went first for the Bellowing children. So there was less pressure on me this week than normal to perform. Don't really know how I feel about that. I'll kind of reflect about it after the game. But definitely a different kind of dynamic when you're not the last one to play, which I have been every other week so far. Really interesting. So this week against Scout, I decided to bring a setup Reuniclus. So this one was a acid armor with max Spadef, max HP. The idea being Drapion was the only thing that could really 2-hit KO me on the team, maybe Landorus, and that was it with the Spadef investment. But once I got to +2 physical defense, nothing on Scout's team could 2-hit KO me. So essentially, Reuniclus could outstall the whole of Scout's team. And with Magic Guard, meaning that I don't get any damage from like Toxic, for example, it meant that I could just potentially stall out the whole of Scout's team, dependent on PP. And so I had to be careful with how I played Reuniclus to make sure I made the most out of it and won the kind of PP war that could materialize with something like the Milotic. So to try and compensate for that, I was running Psychic, which potentially could get Spadef drops on stuff and wear stuff down. And rather than running Focus Blast for the Drapion, which was my original thought, I decided to run Nightshade after Aquarius suggested it. So shout out to my teammate Aquarius, that was an awesome suggestion. Definitely really capped off this set perfectly. I did consider running Toxic over Psychic even, because between Nightshade and Toxic, I could pretty much 1v1 everything. The only issue with that would be if the Milotic was a Flame Up set. I couldn't Toxic it anyway, and so I felt like, oh, I kind of need the Psychic to try and get the Spadef drops or something like that. Maybe. That's still up in the air how I feel about that exactly. But that was the set I decided to run with. Also, I should shout out Andrew, actually. Andrew, you guys, most of you probably know Andrew by now. I briefly discussed the matchup with him the day before I built, so shout out to him for some advice as well. We kind of talked about some things, which was pretty cool. But moving on next, we have Matt the Magmortar. And this Magmortar is a really cool set. I'm not going to go into too much detail because not all of it got utilized, and I want to save some of it. So, but basically it was just a Flame Charge set with a Pasho Berry to take a hit from Milotic with Thunderbolt and Fire Blast. That way I could kind of get to +1 speed, outspeed everything on Scout's team. And nothing really wanted to take a Fire Blast. If you look here, you know, the combination of Fire Blast plus Thunderbolt hits pretty much everything for decent damage. The only thing really being Landorus, but at least I'm going to chunk down Landorus with a Fire Blast potentially. So that's really nice. Then we have a sub SD Terrakion. Now, this Terrakion set was designed to kind of break rather than clean up. I thought that the Reuniclus would kind of clean up at the end, and I needed to get Terrakion in at some point, hopefully for free. Click sub on something that wanted to switch out, like the Mega Aggron, for example, and then click SD, and then I had Z Close Combat to take care of Milotic, which just is never taking, even with Flame Orb Max Defense. I think after Rocks doesn't take a Z Close Combat at +2. So the idea being that Terrakion would kind of get a sub up, set up, and then proceed to break things that could outstall Reuniclus, particularly the Milotic. Because that's really the only thing that can that effectively outstall Reuniclus, or that I thought would be here anyway. Then we have Mega Blastoise. Mega Blastoise is a max Fizz Def set to try and take hits from this Lando, because nothing on my team could really take hits from Lando that well, so that's why this is here. It basically just wants to click Ice Beam, Water Pulse, Flash Cannon, and Aura Sphere. You might be wondering why Flash Cannon, because Aura Sphere already hits Cryogonal. Flash Cannon's here because Scout also has a Sylveon on the team, which I very much expected Sylveon to be here, as well as Haxorus, and they're the two big omissions from her team that I expected to be here. For what it's worth, I didn't think I had a single switch in on my draft to Haxorus. My plan was to revenge kill it, and I'll get onto that in just a moment, but I was relieved at Team Preview when I did not see Haxorus, so relieved. Next up, we have a Focus Sash Nidoking yet again. This thing was kind of going to be a lead until I realized that Lando was a little bit of a problem, and I wasn't really sure about leading it, and I had a bit of a different game plan in mind. It really stopped being a lead once I saw that the Mega Aggron and the Cryogonal were here over the Haxorus and the Haxorus and the Sylveon, because suddenly T-Spikes became so much less useful. Only the Milotic and the Raikou even were affected by T-Spikes, with a Drapion to soak them up. The chances of me ever getting these things poisoned was just unlikely. The reason that I wanted T-Spikes was to wear the Milotic down a lot better for the Reuniclus, rather than it getting its Flame Orb up. If I could get it so that it was poisoned, that would be incredible for Reuniclus, and that's ultimately why I decided not to run Toxic, because I was like, oh, I'll get T-Spikes down. Unfortunately, as I say, didn't really look like T-Spikes had the matchup, so Nidoking instead became like a Sash Rock Setter in the back, with also Sludge Wave, because Sludge Wave hit everything on Scout's team decently well, and then Ice Beam hit the Landorus, which didn't get hit by Sludge Wave, and I thought I'd be able to bluff out the Drapion anyway, so I didn't really think Earth Power would be that necessary, and truth be told, Drapion still takes like 50% from a modest Ice Beam, even without the Life Orb, so... And again, the Aggron I couldn't really touch, but who leaves a Mega Aggron in on a Nidoking? Not many people, so I figured I could kind of bluff around that I didn't have the Earth Power, as long as I didn't reveal too much of my set too early. And then last up we have Scarf Salamence, and I changed this set more times than I can tell you. This needed to do something to Haxorus, like it needed to deal with Haxorus in some way. So this was a Scarf Revenge Killer with Draco, Meteor, Fire Blast, Iron Tail so that I could still touch the Sylveon, and Tailwind so that if I needed to, I could set up a Tailwind and then potentially just sweep with Terrakion, or maybe get Nidoking into Tailwind, or even the Magmortar into Tailwind. So I really like Tailwind as a fourth move on here. This was a Dragon Dance set at one point because I figured that I could bluff the Scarf with it and scare Haxorus out, but the problem with that was if Scout got to +1 with Haxorus and I didn't scare it out, Haxorus just won. So, like, I had to be careful. Like, I had to play around it, and Scarf just seemed the only safe way to go. And a special set was the way of guaranteeing the Oko on the Haxorus. Now, as I say, Haxorus didn't come, so that meant that one or two things, well, really just this. The Salamence wasn't quite as good as it could have been, but it still had a decent matchup against their team. I was disappointed to see two Special Walls here that could really do a number on Salamence, but that wasn't the end of the world. If I caught Koragon with a Fire Blast, it would definitely chunk it down, so... with that being said, I decided to lead with Blastoise here because I thought that Landorus seemed like her most likely lead against me. I've led Nidoking in every game, so Landorus seemed like a good lead there. The other things that I might want to lead would really be like Terrakion, for example, if it was like a Rocks, or if I just wanted to set up turn 1. So I really thought that a U-turn or Rocks Landorus was Scout's best lead. So, and indeed that turned out to be the case. So with that in mind, I go out to Blastoise here. And Steven's just going to Mega Evolve and fire off the Water Pools. I don't need to make any reads. I don't need to get ambitious here. This thing could just try and go for Rocks with a Yachi Berry, thinking it can take my Ice Beam. And I'm like, I'm just going to go for Water Pools and guarantee damage on this thing. Maybe get a Confusion on something else. Unfortunately, this does allow in the Milotic essentially for free. But that's fine, because now I can start to try and get in Scout's head a little bit. I can go out into Reuniclus here. I eat this for days. Even if she burnt, it didn't matter. In fact, if she burnt, it meant I couldn't get paralyzed. So that would be kind of nice there. But it doesn't happen. And instead, what I can do is I can click Iron Defense, knowing that she's going hard into Drapion. And I can start to wear down this Drapion and scout out what this Drapion set is. Does it have Sword Stance? What kind of a Drapion is it? You know, we can start to play this game. So Scout straight up goes for a knockoff as I go for the Iron Defense, just in case, you know, I want to scout, see what's going to happen. I want to scout, ironically. And then I'm just going to recover off here this damage. And now I'm in a position where this thing, like, is doing 19%. It's doing nothing to me. And I can start clicking Nightshade and wearing it down. And nothing really wants to come in and take a Nightshade, otherwise they're going to have to start recovering. So here we see the Milotic. And one crucial thing I forgot to mention is the Milotic revealed not to be Flame Orb was amazing for Terrakion. That means I know I can completely bust through this thing with Terrakion later in the game. And then Scout goes for an Ice Beam, and I'm like, ooh, I don't think Scout is fishing for the freeze, but I wouldn't blame her if she was, to be fair. And I'm like, a bit of me thinks that could be okay, because at least we'll stall out some PP on some stuff, but I'm like, it's not ideal. So I just fish for the Spadef drop with Psychic. I'm like, well, if we're both fishing, I may as well join in. We don't unfortunately get it, and I want to try and force that thing to recover anyway, because I need to stall out the Milotic recovers. So she goes out into Drapion, makes sense when I'm clicking Psychic, and then goes back into Cryogonal as I'm just going to click Nightshade, which unfortunately doesn't give me any information on this Cryogonal set. I've been able to see with the Milotic that it looks like it's a mixed bulk set. It looks like it's got some Spadef, some HP, and some physical defense. And also it looks like the Landorus is probably Scarf Lando from the damage it did to Blastoise. It was either a low roll Adamant or a high roll Jolly, I think, full attack. So I'm like, I think this thing's probably Scarf. So we're just going to pop off the Nightshade here onto the Cryogonal. And it's going to do a chunk. It hits me with a Signal Beam, which did 25%. It did essentially nothing. And I can just keep Nightshading it and force this thing to recover as well. But actually what I realized is that I'm going to lose this PP war because Scout has the Milotic and the Cryogonal that can both recover. So what I can do here is I can bring in Magmortar really safely. Even a Signal Beam is not going to do anything, it's going to tickle me. And a Freeze Dry is not going to do a lot either. This thing could have like Hidden Power Ground or something, but one, it won't do an awful amount, I don't think. And two, I don't know why you'd ever click Hidden Power Ground on a +3 Reuniclus. Reuniclus is still at 75%, so it's still healthy enough to do a bit later on in the game. And indeed, we see the Signal Beam come out, it does 10%, and I'm like, perfect. And let me just click Flame Charge here, because I'm almost certain Milotic's coming out, and indeed it is. And maybe I could have gone for the read for the Thunderbolt, but I didn't need to get fancy there, was no need. I've got the Pasho Berry exactly for this situation, so I'm just going to click T-Bolt here. I know I can take a Scold from this thing really, really well. It's not going to do too much with the Pasho. This thing's min special attack, almost certainly. It does 32%, that's fine. And now I kill with the next Thunderbolt. I expect Scouts to go into Landorus here, but there's no reason for me to over-predict again. At this point, I'm really wishing I had HP Ice on this set, but I don't, unfortunately. And here, again, I'm like, okay, this Lando is almost definitely Scarf, because the way that it's been played, the damage rolls I've seen, the fact that she brought it in here, if I had HP Ice, I would probably do a decent chunk to it. I'm thinking it's Scarf. So I'm going to switch out into the Salamence, because I don't think Scout can take too much of a risk with the Stone Edge in case it misses. I'm going to get the Intimidate anyway, but I think the Earthquake's definitely coming out, as it is. And that means I can just drop a Draco and see what wants to come in. Aggron wants to come in, but it's not Mega Evolved yet, so it's not quite as bulky as it could be. It takes 30%. And I'm like, okay, I think this reveals that it's Spadef Aggron. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Spadef Aggron makes a lot of sense here. Ice Punch comes out onto Steven, which I knew would just wall Aggron all day long. And then I double back into Magmortar. And the reason I double back into Magmortar here, so we go into Steven, and I was very much planning this double because what Steven does is he brings in the Milo, and I want that Milotic gone. I need to find a way to kill Milotic, because if I can kill Milotic, then I can get rocks up. Then Cryogonal is going to have a really hard time outstalling Reuniclus, because Reuniclus takes like no damage from the Cryogonal. It can't keep switching on me because rocks hopefully will be up sooner or later. And I have the chance to drop a Spadef, and Nightshade is going to do far more than Signal Beam, so it's going to have to recover more than I'm going to have to recover. So I will eventually beat that Cryogonal if I can get rid of the damn Milotic and get rocks up. So we bring in Steven here, hoping that this will fish out the Milotic. And if it does, what I want is I want to double into Magmortar, because then we're back in the position where we can just reset and we can keep playing this game. So we go with Magmortar, and actually Scout chooses to go into the Drapion, which really, really catches me off guard, because she makes her own like switch there into that, and I'm like, okay, that's a problem. I wasn't expecting that. I definitely can't stay in. If I did the Earthquake, I just go into Salamence, and I'm like, cool. I think I just drop a Draco here again, because I'm like, there's no reason for me not to drop a Draco. I kill the Milotic if it comes in. That's what I really want to do. I want that Milotic to die. Like, I'm just at this point, I'm like, Scout, please just sack the Milo. Like, give me that thing, and then I can be okay. And I just drop a double Draco here into Lando, guaranteed to pick up the kill. I'm thinking she brings it in because it's Scarf and doesn't realize that I'm Scarf Mence, and so doesn't expect me to outspeed there with the double Draco. Now this thing's free to come in, but that's just a free switch into Magmortar. I'm really not bothered. The worst thing that Scout could have done there would have been go hard Milotic and try and recover on me, because I was at -4 special attack, probably could have done. But we're just going to go back into Matt, and we're going to get a Flame Charger, because I didn't want to just go straight for the Fire Blast there. In case the Cryogonal stayed in, it seemed worth outspeeding it first and making sure it's definitely in range. So we may as well go for the Flame Charger now. I'm like, cool. Now I click Fire Blast, and this Drapion is going to get put super low. I don't think we would have killed. We would get super, super low. And I'm like, okay, just fire off this Fire Blast. Unfortunately, we miss. You know, we got some nice accuracy rolls against Hazards the other week, so I'm like, you know, that's Mons. It happens. And we dropped the EQ. I'm like, okay, we can... I don't know if we'll kill, but I'm going to bring in Mence, and I'm going to drop a Draco. I reckon 2 Draco meters will kill this thing. We managed to take out the Salamence, so the Landorus, so it should work. Unfortunately, we missed the Draco, and I'm like, okay, we're going to play this slightly differently now, because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, I've lost my Scarf, but that's okay. That's not the end of the world. What I want to do here is Knockoff just did 29%. Poison Jab is not going to do a lot. What I want to do is I want to try and like Fire Blast, maybe snag the burn. I can keep my special attack. I can stop Milo from coming in and recovering on me. And if I'm lucky, I can fire off a Tailwind. So here we just go for the Fire Blast, hoping to try and snag the burn. Unfortunately, we don't get it, but we do land the Fire Blast nice. We do a clean 50%. Scout reveals the Poison Jab and snags the poison. Now this really sucks because that poison jab did like 29%. So we 100% could have lived another poison jab. I could have fired off another fire blast here. I still outspeed everything on the team, barring the Kragnol and the Raikou. But what Kragnol and Raikou do is they give me switches into things like Nidoking potentially, or a Terrakion potentially, or a Uniclus. So like, there's a number of things that I could have done there, which I really wanted to do. But the poison, I'm like, okay, and here's where I kind of make a weird play. Instead of like, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and bluff this thing out to get rocks up and kill the Milotic, because I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I can get the Tailwind up, and now Nidoking definitely outspeeds this thing, right? And I kind of, like, I'm going to have to confess, I did kind of forget I had Earth Power at this point. You see that we dropped to that, to the Poison, and we go into Nico, and in my head, I kind of still thought I had Earth Power over Ice Beam. It's inconsequential, it really doesn't matter long term, but my thinking here was, okay, Scout really doesn't have a great switch into Nidoking, but she might sack the Milotic, and that's what I'm really wanting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go straight up for rocks, because I'm pretty sure I can kill the Milotic with a Sludge Wave after that anyway. And I want to get my rocks up, because as soon as I got my rocks up, that Kragnol, even if she doesn't sack Milo here, I'm pressuring the Milo and the Kragnol for Reuniclus, and that's really what I'm about. I want to make sure that they can't keep switching to stall out my PP. So I just go hard for rocks. The Scout stays in and just clicks Earthquake, which is completely fair play. Like I said, it wasn't like she had a lot of switch-ins to Nidoking, so I get it. Like, I get why she would just want to sack this thing. Fortunately, I don't have the Earth Power that I'm bluffing, so my Ice Beam isn't going to kill. And she's able to just pick up the KO on the Nidoking. But I'm like, that's okay. I've got rocks up, and I've got another turn of Tailwind. And now I'm in a tricky position, because I have two options here. I can go into Terrakion, and I can kill this thing with a close combat. But that's going to drop my Spadef, and that means that Raikou can revenge kill me very easily. If it's a Calm Mind Raikou and I switch into something, that means it can set up on me. So I'm like, oh, I'm in a really tricky position if I go into Terrakion here. Long game, I could just lose to a setup Raikou. And I really, really don't want that to happen. I don't know exactly what the Raikou set has. Maybe Reuniclus can still wall it, but if it's a Calm Mindset, we could be in trouble. I really don't want that to happen. So I'm like, right, I think the best thing to do is to go into Blastoise. We still outspeed. It brings in the Raikou next. I should be able to live any one hit from Raikou. Thunderbolt is going to be a roll, but I think Scout goes for the Volt Switch here. And what we can at least do is we can scout what kind of Raikou this Raikou is. So Raikou comes in. And Scout just goes for the Thunderbolt, and we do live the roll, which is really, really nice, which means we can fire off a big Aura Sphere onto this thing. The reason I clicked the Aura Sphere was because I figured if Scout Volt switched, Aura Sphere would, plus rocks, would probably kill the Milo. It would definitely kill the Kragnol, I think, and it would chunk down the Mega Aggron to good range. So I'm really playing for her to click Volt Switch there. Had I predicted the Thunderbolt, there wasn't much more I could do, because Terrakion doesn't want to take two Thunderbolts. And Reuniclus can't take a Thunderbolt into a Shadow Ball. So I really just have to try and take that with Blastoise, and I was praying that Scout would go for the Volt Switch. Unfortunately, she didn't, and she just fires off double Thunderbolt. Good play. And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to go into Reuniclus here, and I can 1v1 this thing. But what I have to do is I definitely have to click Psychic, because I can't let the Milo come in for free, because the Milo outspeeds me and it can recover on me. So I go for the Psychic. We actually snag the Spadef drop here, which is really, really lucky, because what this means on this Kragnol is that we're doing exactly 50% this Kragnol with Psychic from now on. With rolls, we could do like 48 to 54, or I don't know. But basically, I ran it through the calc, and after leftovers, we have like a 2% chance to, from what this set looks to be, we have like a 2% chance to 2-hit KO. It doesn't look like we're going to 2-hit KO this thing, but we can really stall out its recovers at this point because of that Spadef drop. With Psychic, we can really, really start to stall out its recovers effectively and never let it get too healthy so that it can come back in on rocks again. I did consider going hard into Terrakion here. The problem with going hard into Terrakion is that Terrakion never outsped the Raikou. So the only way I beat Raikou 1v1 is either that I'm at full health or I'm behind a sub. So I can't risk my Terrakion just yet. I'm like, okay, I don't think that this is the time to try and win straight out with Reuniclus, just because if I let Scout get a recover off here, I'm in bad shape, because then Scout can take the Kragnol out of the game, switch it out is what I'm trying to say, and bring it back in on rocks later, because she's going to be at 80%, she's only going to go down to 50, and then she can take a sidekick, and so I don't want to do that. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try and pressure it with another sidekick here and hope that she goes for a cover and just stop her from getting too healthy. And she goes for the signal beam, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna pick up the KO. Cool. We're at 25%, so like pretty much anything can kill me here. I'm expecting it to be the Raikou to come out, but actually she goes into the Aggron, and I'm like, okay, Aggron before Raikou. That's really interesting. We just let the Reuniclus go down because, as I've said, I can't. Reuniclus is slower than everything, so I'm not gonna get a recover off on anything. Like, I can't recover on the Milotic. I need to kill it. Otherwise, it can try and outstall me. But either way, it has a chance to kill me. Maybe, I don't know exactly. Maybe I could have recovered on the Milotic. But if I had gone into Aggron, I never would have got the. If I'd gone into Terrakion, sorry, hard on that heavy slam, Terrakion would have then killed the Aggron, but it would have got revenge killed by the Raikou. And then Reuniclus lost the Raikou as well. So I'm like, I'm trying to like figure out this endgame in my head. I'm like, okay, the way I win here is the only way Raikou ever Okos Terrakion with my build, because I've got a little bit of bulk. The only way Raikou ever Okos me, by the way, if I had Rock Polish here, I just weren't. I was kicking myself having SD and not Rock Polish, or Sub and not Rock Polish. I was like, I knew I should have been Double Dance. I knew I should have been Double Dance. Anyway, I just thought that, I don't know, I thought that Sub would be better. And I don't know why I thought Sub would be better, but I thought it would be. Doesn't really matter. So I'm like, okay, the only way Raikou ever Okos me is if it's Z extrasensory. I can kill this Terrakion with Z all-out pummeling here. And I think Scout knows that. So I'm like, okay, because I'm jolly, I'm not even adamant. So like, if I was adamant banded, I might have even been able to get it with a regular close combat. I don't know. Probably not, actually, because Z's a lot more powerful. But either way, I'm like, I think Scout knows that I've got a chance to kill this with a Z move. So if I'm Scout, how do I guarantee the win here? What I need to do is I probably need to go into Milo, sack the Milo, and then I need to go into Raikou and Oko me with the Z extrasensory. That's what I'm thinking in my head. And I'm like, if she stays in and I click all out pummeling here and I kill the Mega Aggron and she doesn't have Z extrasensory, then I win as well. But if I burn my Z move here, it's game over. If I click Z and Aggron either protects or she sacks the Milo, it is game over because I cannot kill this Aggron without an SD, and I can't get an SD up on the Raikou because it's faster than me, and I can't SD up on the Aggron. So I'm just like, okay, what I have to do here is I have to call whether Scout sacks the Milo or whether she stays in with the Aggron. And I'm like, I think she sacks the Milo because it doesn't lose her anything, right? If she sacks the Milo and I click Rock Polish, well, this Aggron was never going to kill me. I just won after that anyway. If I click SD, the Raikou still outspeeds me, and if the Raikou could kill me, the Raikou will still kill me. So the only way that Scout, in my head, the only way that Scout doesn't sack Milo here is if she's worried about me subbing. And I'm like, I don't think you worry about a Terrakion subbing. I think you worry about it having Z moves and rock polishing. So I'm just like, okay, I'm going to go for the sub. So we pop off the sub, and I'm like, god damn, no, okay. Stays in, I'm like, obviously isn't going to sack Milo. Let me pop my Z here. I don't have a choice. So I just pop the Z here, and we kill the Aggron. Now, I can still live a hit from this Raikou because we've seen that it doesn't have a boosting item. I forgot to say that. We saw it change up moves, but I also see that it didn't have like a zap play or anything. So I do live a Thunderbolt here from a timid Raikou. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure. So I'm like, I can still win if she isn't running Extrasensory or Aura Sphere. And this is a shiny Raikou, so I was figuring it was probably running Aura Sphere and maybe a Z Aura Sphere. So that was like in my head as well, that I'm like, because I'm pretty sure Aura Sphere is for the shiny one. So I was like, this is not good, this is not good. So I'm like, okay, I'm expecting a Z Aura Sphere to come out here. But if for some reason she's not Aura Sphere or not Extrasensory, we can still win. So, because we kill this thing with a close combat, and then we kill Milo with a close combat. And the Raikou, Actually pops off the Z move here. Z Thunderbolt would also kill, it's worth noting. Z Shadow Ball wouldn't, but it turns out to be the Shatter Psyche, so it was running the extra sensory. I will lose 2-0 to Scout. GG, she fully deserved the win here. I'm really... This is probably the hardest I've ever taken a loss, if I'm honest. I've probably seen okay now, but I really, really took this one hard, and not in a way that I was like salty or anything like that. I was just so gutted with this game because I had such a hard time building for it, and I felt so like I couldn't get in the right mental space for this game, and then I feel like I just got really outplayed the whole game, and Scout deserved the win. And I'm really frustrated with myself because I'm like, that doesn't happen too often anymore. There's not too often anymore where I feel just completely outplayed, but this game I did. And I want to get to that point where I'm not feeling like that anymore. You know, I know it happens to everyone sometimes, but I don't want to feel like that. I want to feel like I was always in with a shot, you know? And I think there's a lot of plays I could have made better. I think, you know, I should have preserved the Reuniclus. I maybe could have won the Stall War. I had a lot of PP on Iron Defense once rocks were up. You know, there were things I could have done. I could have found a better opportunity to get Terrakion in. For what it's worth, even if I had Z-moved on the Aggron before I substituted, this Raikou still always killed me. It guaranteed the Oko with the Z extra sensory. So I didn't misplay by going for the sub at all. That wasn't the issue. The issue was just like, I should have brought Rock Polish. I really should have brought Rock Polish. I should have just played the end game a little bit better, and even the early game. The misses sucked. Like I represent it otherwise. The Scout even said in the chat, you know, I'm sorry for the double miss because that Drapion was an absolute problem. Like it just wouldn't die. But I think, you know, me going for the Tailwind just so that I could bluff the Earth Power and get my rocks up. That was a horrible play. That was a really, really just horrible, horrible play. I 100% should have just killed that damn... Like, when I clicked Fire Blast at the end, I should have just, like, when I clicked Tailwind, I should have just Dracoed or Fire Blasted. It was me trying to get too technical, me trying to, like, bluff stuff, and it was just, like, why? Why? You didn't gain anything. It closed the end game out in such a horrible way. So, anyway, I'm done with this kind of tirade of self-criticism. I'm gutted. I'm really, really gutted. So, as of the time that I'm recording this, my other two teammates have not played still. I recorded this straight after the game, pretty much. I gave myself an hour, or 2 hours, in fact. Jesus, how many hours has it been? My goodness, it's been 3 hours. I gave myself 3 hours. I took a shower. I spoke to some people on the phone. I had a chocolate bar. Just kind of like chilled out for a bit because I was, like I said, I'm really upset with myself. Really upset. And that is to take nothing away from Scout, by the way. Because like I said, I feel like Scout played immaculately. I think that, you know, she knew she had Shattered Psyche Raikou. And she played her outs to that perfectly. So like, when I'm frustrated with myself, it is never to say that I think my opponent didn't deserve the win at all, because I think Scout thoroughly deserved the win. My frustration with myself is that I wasn't on her level. That's my frustration. So that's kind of how it was. But hopefully my teammates can do well. If you haven't already, Aquarius' channel is linked down in the description. If you're still here watching this video at this point when I'm still rambling on, please go and check out Aquarius' channel because you want to know how the Bellowing children got on this week. All that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this game. I'm sorry that I couldn't get a better result. Hopefully I can bounce back next week. But GG to Scout again. And thank you so much for loafing around with me, guys. I'll catch you again next time.